Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. We are following up to on the Pan American battleship line, or battle cruiser line if you want, with the Tier 9, with the Los Andes. In the same tradition as the Tier 8, this ship didn't exist, but it could have. It's one of these what-if ships. And to be honest, if you're trying to do period Pan American or South American battleships, you sort of have to go that direction, because the stuff that was actually around probably wouldn't make sense in the higher tiers anymore. So what is the Los Andes? Well, it would have been an Argentinian ship, and it would have again been built by the British and then refitted by the Americans, mainly on the auto secondaries, which are operating as dual-purpose guns. She is pretty well armored and follows the principle of the previous ship of being relatively fast, but about as maneuverable as a brick. The main guns, and again we're following the pattern here, are actually sort of a tier down. We have the 381mm or 15-inch Mark I guns. These are, well, relatively famous British battleship guns, so they would have made sense in an early 20th century battleship design. These were the guns you'd find on the Queen Mary's or on the Queen Elizabeth or on the Hood or even still on the Vanguard. So these guns have been around for quite a bit and have been, well, very, very effective. On the secondaries, we find now the somewhat oversized 234mm, or I think it's 9.2-inch guns. This is sort of the pre-dreadnought style. So we're talking really early 20th century here, when you would stick a wide array of bristling guns around the ship, all with different ammunitions, so that it wouldn't be easy to organize things, and with various different calibers. These were actually used in pretty old pre-dreadnoughts as secondaries, right? As one of the secondary guns. Obviously, the caliber is relatively large, but these are very old guns. Given, however, how old the Mark Is on the 15 inches are, that still makes sense that you would find them together, at least to some degree, with some degree of leniency. And then, yes, we find the 127mm auto secondaries. So it's the same topic. It's basically an upgraded Tier 8, but you get larger manual secondaries, and you get effectively one tier down main guns, but in return you get quite a lot of them, because we have a whopping 12 guns on these things. And again, this is sort of the stick as many dual turrets on this thing as you possibly can, kind of a design choice that we would have seen in the time. So it's an interesting alternate history design. But as in the previous video, we will have a quick look on how she compares to the German, because obviously we have to compare her to the Friedrich der Große. Why? Because it's a secondary focused, heavily armored ship, and this sort of place has previously been more or less solely occupied by the German ships, the German battleships, not the battle cruisers. And the Los Andes there definitely now needs to be compared to the Freddy. The Freddy is in a little bit of a difficult spot coming from the Bismarck. So the Freddy is very much unmaneuverable as well, but doesn't quite have packed the punch of the Große Kurfürst, and obviously now gets into Tier 10 battles. So she doesn't have quite the armor to withstand taking on multiple enemies at a time, especially if they're higher tier. And it's a stepping stone. It's not a bad ship. I still enjoy playing her, but it's definitely a stepping stone ship. So how do the two compare? Well, of course, the Friedrich der Große has different ship skills, and that makes a difference in how you can play. So you have the sonar, which means you can play a lot more aggressively against destroyers, and you have the secondary overload. Now you get two secondary overload skills. If we have a quick look, this gives us a 20% range and reload speed, and the combat instruction gives us 20% range and accuracy and 10% reload. But the main difference is that in order to activate the combat instruction, you have to do 15,000 points of damage. which means you can activate it a lot more frequently than the secondary overload, which is good. But it also means that it's not available in the opening stages of the game. So if you are deciding that you are going to be aggressive on a cup and you don't actually have racked up the 15,000 points of damage and you encounter an enemy destroyer, then you have neither a sonar to deal with incoming torpedo threats, nor the maneuverability to really dodge them. Now, to be fair, you don't have that in the Freddy either, but you don't also have the overload skill available. So while the overload skill itself, you only get 2 charges of them, is, well, I would say somewhat inferior to the combat instruction. You have it available from the very onset of the battle. So I'm not saying one's better than the other. It's more of a difference in style. So with the Los Andes, you have to play a little bit more conservatively. You just can't rush destroyers like you could say in a Freddy, for example. And in the Freddy also has at this point somewhat notably more hit points and a somewhat better torpedo damage reduction, which is not going to make a huge difference, but still. In return, the Los Andes has a very good armor plating. One thing that I'm going to have to actually take a look at some point is see if I can figure out what the actual values are for the armor, because I have been spanked quite badly in the Los Andes. So I have suspicions that at least part of the deck armor might be a little weaker than I would like it to be, but that's just a gut feeling at this point. Maneuverability and speed-wise, yes, you have an even worse turn time than on the Freddy. But you have somewhat more capable engines and more power to weight ratio. Obviously, you're undergunned to a degree, but that isn't to say that these guns are bad. They do turn reasonably well, and you do have the same reload. So you simply get 4 more of them, which really more than compensates for the lack of for the lack of caliber on these guns. Freddy's guns are great, but you only have 8, whereas here you've got 12 guns. Now, on paper, these secondaries look absolutely vicious, and they are. They have a very good range and actually have a better base reload than what you get on the Freddy, but you only fire high explosive with them. So you do have to be a little cautious. That said, if you are facing heavily armored tier 10 ships in the Freddy, the 150s, so for example, if you face something like a Großer Kurfürst, the 150s will not do an awful lot either. So I would say you're pretty much on par, at least on par here with the secondaries. And we do get the 127mm dual purpose secondaries, which are for all intents and purposes better than what you get on the Freddy. So it is a veritable secondary monster, but it doesn't move particularly well. It doesn't turn particularly well. The AA is all right. You're not going to win any medals with it. But what's noticeably also better is the concealment. You get a whopping kilometer less concealment on these things. I generally play the Friedrich der Große with the steering mod because I do tend to be a little bit more aggressive against destroyers. But the Los Andes is actually not badly served with the concealment because you have a very good base concealment. And that is how I have set her up as well. You do get the choice between improved main armor belt and the secondary gun specialization. Of course, we're going for the secondaries here because that's the fun part. And in terms of equipment, you are missing the German secondary module, unfortunately. So all we can get is secondary range and auto secondary range for 5%. Whereas if we're looking at the Friedrich der Große, she gets the secondary battery mod 2, which gives us double the range plus better dispersion on these things. So if we're looking at the actual values, not in the comparison, so if we look at the actual values in the armory, we get the 150s down to 7.3 seconds and 7.6 kilometer range. Whereas on the Los Andes, if we look, we have the secondaries down to 7 seconds and 7.9 kilometer range. So despite the fact that you don't get quite the good module, you still have a very a very capable set of secondary guns. Plus, once you run the combat instruction. Talking about that, I will get to that in a second, because yes, you all did mention that in the comments, but I had completely forgotten when I was recording the last video that yes, of course, Wargaming's description of them is broken, and we'll prove it in a second, but yes. So I have used the concealment mod in slot 3. You could go with steering. It's absolutely viable to say, okay, well, let's make the steering at least a little bit better. But the concealment means that you get a sub 10 kilometer detection on a battleship. That is pretty darn good. So this is a sneaky boy, and can be a very, very nasty surprise for things as they go. What else to mention? Camos. You get the choice between the historical camo, which gives hit points, which is good, because we don't have quite as many of them. We get range on the mains, which is good. We get range on the auto secondaries, which is nice. And we get torpedo damage reduction, which, given that the base value is rubbish, isn't going to do an awful lot. The alternate camo gives us the same main battery range, but does give us main battery dispersion instead of hit points, and the auto secondary range and surface detection. So with that setup, and that's how we get into the sub 10 kilometer setup. So if you're sailing with the concealment mod, I would argue that that the alternate camo is the better choice. If you're not and you're going with steering, then then it's probably, well, it's a coin toss, but you could also just take the historical. The alternate camo doesn't look completely atrocious, so it's one of the more mildly palpable ones. And yes, as you can see, we get the traditional British conning tower on this ship. Commander-wise, I am using the Duquesa Isabel, which is the only epic commander available on the Pan American line. She doesn't unfortunately get the APCS Plus, which you get on the German ships, but at least she has the Close Quarters Combat Expert Plus, which gives us improved dispersion on the secondaries, and we get the slightly better deck protection. For the talents, I would obviously here go as well with the a secondary setup, because that simply improves things as you go along. So let's have a very quick look at the combat instructions, because the combat instructions very clearly state that the auto secondary gun range and accuracy is improved by 20%. That is, well, it's not wrong, but it's not the whole truth. It happens to the manual secondaries as well. I can prove it to you. So let me show you. So here we have 7.97 kilometer base range on the manual secondaries, and once we update the combat instruction, we get an over 9 kilometer range, 9.56 to be specific. So yes, this works not just on the auto secondaries, which you can see blasting away there, but also on the manual secondaries, which have a surprisingly good amount of penetration as well. So they do manage to, if you manage to hit something like superstructure, to get through there as well. So we find ourselves in domination on Aurora and in a top-tier battle against an Amagi Kansas team, a Black Freddy, a Missouri, Amalfi, and 2 destroyers, a Jutland and an Akizuki. Now, generally what I do, or what I try to do in the Los Andes, is not be too aggressive on the onset, but try to accumulate 15,000 points of damage before I get anywhere near where enemy destroyers might be. Simply because it just enhances your firepower, makes you just so much more dangerous against enemy destroyers, especially that you don't have a sonar to work with. So the concealment helps in that regard, as in I can sneak a little closer to the enemy team, get in range before firing the guns for the first time. And obviously the heavy armor means that you can take point in the ship as well. You just have to be careful against destroyers, because the torpedo defenses are pitiful. The maneuverability is terrible, and you don't have a sonar or anything. So torpedo threats are definitely your larger threat here. We'll make our way slowly, well, actually not that slowly, because this is a very quick ship, towards the vicinity of B Cup. The Connecticut is, I've seen a few of these around, I haven't actually reviewed that yet. Hello, Mr. Akizuki. Let's see if we can get a salvo in at this range with the 380s. Nice turn. Connecticut, a hybrid ship that I haven't reviewed yet, but yeah, he's sailing into all of the enemy team at this point. So I could send another salvo at the Akizuki, but he is about to eat a fair few of torpedoes potentially. We do have to slow down now because we are starting to take fire from the Kansas and from the Black Freddy. And there is an Akizuki out there somewhere. So there are potentially Akizuki torpedoes in the water. And there's also the Jutland. Now Jutland gets into a fight with the Xianyang. The Xianyang has radar. So Jutland smoking up's not going to help you. But there might also just be close enough for proximity detection. But the Xianyang doesn't have torpedoes that can actually hit you. So that's a very brave Xianyang. We have to back up a little bit now because there is an Akizuki out there somewhere. And ouch, that hurt. Yeah, we are attracting a fair bit of attention. So let's get some crossfire out at that Amalfi over there while half of the enemy team is busy kicking our Connecticut to death. There's the Akizuki, so he's going after the Connecticut as well, and I find myself at the edge now of our area of control. This isn't actually bad positionally because the whole enemy team is concentrated on the other side of the map. So I'm not sure what the rest of their team is doing down there while everybody is looking for the Connecticut, but they have lost their Jutland, which has been relatively aggressive early on, which is great. So now it's just the Akizuki. Hello, Mr. Akizuki, because by now I have the secondary overload or the combat instruction ready. So combat instruction up and Dhaka. And now the Akizuki is going to learn that, yes, this is a fully combat ready battleship with a murderous set of secondaries, not even bothering to load the high explosive on the mains because that is a very dead Akizuki, if I have anything to say about it, but Roma takes him out first. So now obviously we have to dodge the inevitable Akizuki torpedoes, which we can't see, but we know that they're there, because why else would he sail broadside on? There they come. And then we have to see if we can dodge the equally inevitable Amalfi torpedoes, so engines into reverse, full hard left. Roma takes out the Amalfi. We might be taking one of these torpedoes, but yeah, if obvious torpedoes are obvious, so even if you don't have sonar, then that's not too hard. The Amagi has just run out of friends, so engine boost up and shout very loud. And now we're going to clean up the last remaining ship on this flank. He was probably wondering how that went so wrong so quickly, while the rest of their team is engaged somewhere down south. He has very much run out of friends. So main guns out, secondaries out, and we should be having the secondary overload up. There we go. We've got a combat instruction up again. So this is the big benefit of the combat instructions. They reload. They can reload a lot faster than the secondary overload on the German ships. And these 234mm guns really hurt. So that's a dead Amagi. And now that battle is pretty much over, I think, at this point, unless my team is messing up colossally. But yeah, Yugumo and Xianyang are going to have a field day with these last three battleships. So I will be sailing into Sea Cup after cleaning this up here in the north, and then we can deal with the last remaining battleships and just farm a bit more damage. So all in all, this is a very good ship. I am thoroughly enjoying playing the ship. You don't have the largest hit point pool in the world, so you do have to manage that somewhat. And obviously tier 9 can always be a little tricky, but if you're aware of the shortcomings, especially the relatively poor maneuverability and the lack of utility against destroyers, not the lack of firepower, the lack of utility, then you can play the ship very successfully. So this is a fun ship to play, in my opinion, and it can be, if you're in a destroyer. That was a bit long. He was actually wiggling while reversing. If you're in a destroyer, be aware that while the tier 8 doesn't quite have the Atlantico's guns, this thing very much does. Now minus the fire chance, obviously, but it is a very, very dangerous ship if the combat, especially if the combat instruction is ready with the secondaries. Now, it's not the same as the Atlantico. You can't just park it in the middle somewhere because A, it's a tier higher, and B, you don't have the fire chance on the secondaries or on the auto secondaries that you have on the Atlantico, where you literally just park in the middle of the map and just burn everything down with triple permafires. But if you enjoy German battleships and you've been playing them successfully, then you'll be right at home in this ship. Treat it basically like a Friedrich der Große minus the sonar with an improved secondary overload that you can activate a lot quicker. So this is a very, very good ship. The main guns, while being slightly under caliber, are punchy. Even in a tier 9, you've got enough of them, and it's great fun. So let's play the Friedrich der Große for comparison. And here we are finding ourselves in a situation that the Friedrich der Große is not particularly comfortable in. The only saving grace here is that there's no carrier, but we are facing a Yamato and a Großer Kurfürst, so two ships with 18-inch guns, a Minnesota, which is a dangerous ship as well at range, San Martin, and a Grozovoi, Nostrashimi, and a Fletcher. And we are playing domination on the LSD map. Because clearly they've been on something when they were designing that thing. It's all very colorful. So what do you do in a Friedrich der Große in this kind of situation? Well, as German battleships, and to the same extent the South American or Pan American battleships, may be heavily armored, but that doesn't allow you to just blindly rush into enemy crossfire, because you will die. And that said, one thing that you can do in these ships is tank and draw attention. So you can take quite a bit of punishment. Freddy has a few more hit points than the Los Andes, and an equally impressive armor plating. Even though when faced with tier 10 guns, it doesn't help you all that much, but you can still tank a fair bit. So we've got the Lambros and the Shimakaze, and there is the San Martin and the Grozovoi on the enemy team. So let's make ourselves known here and see if we can distract the enemy team. Because the San Martin immediately starts opening up at me, which is ideal, because that means he's not shooting at my destroyers, which means the Grozovoi is finding himself suddenly without cruiser support and has just run into a few Lambros Cazones torpedoes. Now the Shimakaze around the corner, and I am taking crossfire across the map there. The Shimakaze around the corner might have a shot at the cruiser, but otherwise I can now start pushing the Grozovoi, and now he's actually getting, he just got torpedoed by a Shimakaze. So he's dead. Otherwise I could have taken on the Grozovoi, because I can probably tank a few torpedoes. But there comes the Minnesota, and he's not alone. He brings the Großer Kurfürst with him. Oh dear. Yeah, that's an uncomfortable amount of firepower, but let's make our way into the capture circle. And the biggest threat to my destroyers is the San Martin. So what we will do is we will try to distract everybody and get everybody to shoot at me, because there's no way that I'm going to defeat San Martin, a Minnesota, and a Großer Kurfürst. Not unless they're complete blithering idiots. And this is tier 10. You have a non-zero chance to find people who are not blithering idiots. So I am getting everybody to shoot at me, ideally. Which means that the destroyers, hopefully, especially the cruiser, hopefully that the destroyers have relatively free reign to torpedo the crap out of these enemy battleships. Am I going to survive this? Probably not. Am I going to do a lot of damage? Probably not. Now I am unspotted due to the smoke screen, so I'm gonna sail out. Yeah, because once I'm not spotted anymore, the San Martin is immediately starting to open up on our destroyer, which is less than ideal. Shimakaze comes around, but I'm still drawing fire from the Großer Kurfürst and from the Minnesota, who have nothing better to do than to shoot at me right now, which is great. So hopefully that allows my destroyers to get into a position, and hopefully the threat of me sitting here keeps the San Martin from kicking the Lambros Canzones to death. who is wisely now. You've got plenty of islands to play with. You've got a smoke screen. All you have to do is not get into a gunfight with that cruiser over there, but instead torpedo the battleships. Now, Shimakaze, maybe you can torpedo the Gosaku. Yes, there he goes. Well, it's not the best torpedo drop in the world, unfortunately. So, yeah. You see, the Große Kurfürst has sonar too. Secondary overload up, but Große Kurfürst is very heavily damaged. So even on the bow section, my 150s are not going to get through. I'm going to try my best here, but I am thoroughly outclassed by that thing. My hope was that I could distract him so the Shimakaze could do a drive-by. Instead, the Shimakaze was dropping from range, missed his torpedoes, and now is getting into a gunfight with the Große Kurfürst. Well, you know, you can only go to certain lengths with how you can support your team. But we've got the San Martin over there, and I'm still drawing fire from something, which probably goes a Kurfürst. So let's see if we can. Oh, there comes the second one. Hopefully the San Martin, because the Lambuscazones is now smoking up. Hopefully to drop some torpedoes. Yeah, be aware that Große Kurfürst has sonar. Minnesota would have probably been the better target for the two, but at least we're holding the capture circle. And we have the enemy team's lost all their destroyers, so we're 2 kills ahead at this point. And I'm just gonna keep drawing fire from these guys to allow the destroyers to get their torpedoes away. Hopefully a bit more successfully with the next load. I think Shimakaze is finally taking on the Minnesota over there. Große Kurfürst is now flooding, and I'm still taking ire from 2 ships. That's hopefully the San Martin and the Große Kurfürst. Now San Martin can finish me off. I'm down to 4,000 hit points. That was my last heal. We have tanked whatever we could tank. And yeah, from this range, I don't think the San Martin is running into that. But you never know. No, he's turning. He's not stupid. So he is turning. He's already turning around. He's going to dodge these torpedoes. And that's going to be it for me. 142 hit points. Second torpedoes away from the Lambuscazones. And yeah, I have successfully been a target for most of this battle. But this is something you can do in these ships, and while it's not glorious, you can do a similar thing in the Pan American battleships. It's not glorious, but it allows you to, well, basically pin down half of the enemy team for half the battle simply by not dying, and allow your teammates to maintain cap control, draw fire from cruisers and battleships to make them ignore the destroyers around them, and effectively just become a big tank and bullet sponge that allow. You can't do that necessarily in every battleship, but given the relatively heavy armor, the German, depending on what shoots at you, the German and the Pan American ones are pretty well suited towards this. So yeah, all in all. The Los Andes is a very, very good ship. Very good secondaries. And if you can manage to get around the enemy team and... oh, we had a Smolensk. That's why we're winning. I see. Enemy team was definitely short on Smolensks. But Somers, well done there. Yeah, the Los Andes is a very, very good ship. If you can get around into a flanking position of the enemy team, she can tear through at close range very, very brutally. So this is just something that's generally you have to be aware of. And yeah, the destroyers have done well on our team. And I am looking forward to trying the tier 10 version of this. So that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.